Greg Boudreaux.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks
That's
for being
me.
here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So tell us who you are. What's your How do you started Vigil Project?
I am one of the co-founders of the Vigil Project, together with some others from here in the Archdiocese of New Orleans and a couple others from elsewhere. So yeah, and I grew up here in the far reaches of the diocese in Folsom. So St. John's in Folsom, and my mom was one of the musicians there growing up, and I think just watching her over the years and growing up with all the musical bones in my body kind of thing, and kind of was all over the place throughout high school, lived jock life, and all that, and then in college had a deeper conversion, and that's when one of the first things was just this conviction of like, I need to give this gift of music to the Lord. I've given it in a lot of places, in a lot of ways, and a lot of ambition and that kind of thing. And like in coming into relationship with Him, it was just very clear, like the Lord wanted this and was like generous enough to say, give it to me, you know? And so it very much became a missionary kind of movement for me in my life coming out of college. My wife Lizzie and I, when we got married, she's a musician as well, and so we started that just naturally. Like it was one of the most, the first things that we were doing fruitfully in our marriage was like sharing music and giving this gift and through ministry. And then we were doing a lot, traveling a lot of ministry, and just some other friends who were also kind of doing the same thing. We got together at one point. Everyone was exhausted, by bouncing here and bouncing there, and we were just like, why don't we just try to do something together, And what that looked like was recording an album for Lent and Easter, and it was just, let's get together, let's pray together, let's write some music for this season that we can just pray into it, and put it out there. And we thought it was just kind of like a one and done thing, and that album, it was very well received, basically. And it was pretty clear. It was pretty quickly clear, like, the Lord has something more than we had in mind here.
Yeah.
And so the Vigil Project is it's a collaborative group of Catholic musicians, artists, and our mission is both to make music. So there's this creative side of making music, things like the men's conference, being able to offer music ministry, and then there's also like a support side where it's like we really want to support other Catholic musicians in that mission of music making too. So it's been awesome. It's been awesome to see that journey and kind of live it.
I mean, one of the things that I think is I've really appreciated about what the Vigil Project's doing, not only beautiful music, and, but there's definitely this idea of wanting to share music, not just by performing it and producing it or whatever, but helping people understand how to make better music, like help a parish figure out how to do worship properly, or how to both liturgically at Mass, how do you help your music be better at Mass, but then also when you're doing, outside of the liturgical environment, you're doing there's other ways to, to offer worship and things that actually do make sense from a Catholic perspective. One of the things I heard, and I'd love to talk more about that. Just one example of it, I was privileged to go to the National Eucharistic Congress in Indianapolis. Yeah. And you guys had some hand in that. You were in how the music, and many people mentioned how beautifully they moved back and forth from like the, liturgical movement proper to the more extemporaneous praise and worship and things, and how there wasn't like this war between contemporary versus traditional, whatever. It was so artfully done. It was so beautifully and artfully done. And I know like you've been thinking about that and how to help people understand how that works.
Yeah, well, I can definitely say from being a part of the Congress, that was very much by design. That was not like an accident that you experienced that.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like in talking about music, and every gift God's given us, but like music is not a simple gift, you know. In some ways it is. It's like, great, I can turn it on and listen to it. But as Catholics, there's like this deeper way of receiving something, and it's not just one speed, you know. And so like, yeah, it's like it should make sense to us with a sacramental worldview that the music for Mass looks different, maybe from the music for Eucharistic adoration looks different from the music that I listen to on my drive here to chat with you, you know. We've got this big, beautiful gift of music that kind of accompanies us through these different moments of our life, right? Yeah. And we're called to pray always. So like, yeah, the folk music, great. Should that be in the Mass? Absolutely not. No, it's absurd, because part of it is to actually discern, like, God, you've given me this life full of all these moments where we're ascending to a source and a summit moment in worship as a community, right? As a body united with Jesus in the sacrifice of the Mass. Well, that looks different. The top of the mountain looks different from the bottom of the mountain, essentially. So it's fun when we actually get to explore it that way. There's kind of not a need for a war or an argument. I can actually like what I like. You can like what you like. And we don't have to fight about it, because like there's all these different moments in which like this gift of music kind of plays a role in our life.
There's room for it. Like there's room for, you know, a nice glass of wine or a bourbon, and there's room for like the sugary lemonade at the fair, right?
Exactly. There's like, always room for that.
You know, it's like these are things, you know, and I think it actually, and you know, we sometimes struggle in the church to just like get that artfully right, and like how you know and the men's conference has struggled with that. Like we've struggled, you know, on and off about, you know, how do we get our music to be the way it needs to be, and you know, and exactly knowing how to do it and who to get there and what, you know, it's actually hard. It's not just you know, you have this, you know, your inspiration of the Holy Spirit, and you start playing. It's a thoughtful, deliberate, you know, planning it out and what we're doing, you know, but in a way that also results in something that's genuinely beautiful. Yeah, and that complexity kind of mirrors what we're trying to do with the men's conference in general, or men's ministry in general. You know, the men's conference isn't the solution to. It's
not a one hit, like this is the solve for it.
Yeah, you know, like, oh, we're going to have this great men's conference, and then we're going to have all these conversions, and the entire church is going to get fixed or something. It's like, no, it plays one role, and there's one note that's being hit there, but there are other notes that have to be done too. Yeah, and sometimes we really struggle because it's complex. That's for a lot of us. I mean, I think me too. But for a lot of us, it makes us uneasy. You know, like this is the right way to do liturgy, and if we only did liturgy correctly, then everything else would be sorted. Yeah. And that does, you know, that maybe isn't. That's not true. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't pay attention to doing liturgy properly. Yeah. So it's like a delicate.
Definitely should. Yeah. It's. You know, it's this is what I'd say about music, and definitely as it pertains to the men's conference, like our hopes there. If we actually remember that music is a gift, it solves a lot of our problems. Like if we forget it's a gift and we start to think of it as like a tool, well, then we actually start to have some problems. What I mean by that is like when I remember it's a gift, one, I remember gratitude for the gift, and two, I see that this was given not just to me but to everyone. And I see it's given differently to me than it is even to you. Like every one of us, you know. Like I grew up listening to John Denver, you know, because that's the music of my parents. My kids are growing up listening to John Mayer, and every Friday we played one of his songs, "Love on the Weekend," and like they literally plug their ears because they're like, "We can't listen to this song anymore," you know. So each of us has this different subjective experience of receiving the gift of music, and this is kind of like the point of that is like this is not. The gift is not a cup where it's like, okay, I got a cup. It's actually more like a giant Lego set or something like that, where it's like, if I don't read the instructions, if I don't understand the gift, like then I'm not going to use it right. I'm not going to be able to build bulldozer or whatever it is that the
Yeah.
like the Lego set is intended to build.
But so now, you could make that. So you said that music isn't a tool; it's a gift. It's not a tool. But you can think of like tools as like the Lego. You have all of these
Sure.
bits and pieces that I can employ to accomplish the things I'm trying to do. And I think I understand what you mean by that. But maybe say more, like, because I do think we sort of make that mistake of music is an efficient. It's a way to accomplish something instead of a beautiful thing that's given in itself. But I think so. Like, what do you mean by that? Like, what's the mistake look like?
The mistake looks like not realizing that like it's gratuitous. Like it's a form of art, and if you look at actually any form of art, like you're looking at something that's just it's extra. It's gratuitous. It's not like something we need. It doesn't serve a functional purpose. You have this gorgeous picture of the cathedral. Why do you have it there? Like, is it like a tool in your office to like help capture this conversation? No, it's like it's there, and because what happens? It's this gift where like we're reminded by beauty of something, right? It pierces to a level that we can't sometimes access otherwise. It pierces beyond what we can just intellectualize or be cognizant of. Even it pierces to a deeper place. It reminds us that we have a heart, and so like. If we want to talk about it like a tool, it's not like it just kind of loses some of that aspect of the gratuitous goodness and gift of God. Like this isn't like a dagger with which he just stabs us. It's a tender gift by which he opens up our heart, and that's true of music. That's true of art in general. You know?
I mean, I think the experience, the subjective experience of that is some. When you're listening to me, you go to the men's conference, or you go to, even mass, and you're listening to music, and you feel like the musicians or whatever are trying to make you feel something or make you think something or cause you to, right? And that can be either through like. So, I just have like a visceral, negative reaction to that. I'm sorry. It's interesting to think about that because we'd like, sometimes, if you're the kind of person who really likes, traditional, Gregorian chant or something like that. If you're like that, that's just where you are. And you hear some really folk, drums and guitars and folky stuff. And you're like, because sometimes that has been used to try to stir up some kind of sentiment that's not right for me. But it can go the other way around too. Like you can kind of really lean into the traditional, because this is the right way to do, and this is how you're supposed to worship. This is how you're supposed to feel. So it's like in both cases, we're like making musical choices that are trying to accomplish something in people instead of like gratuitously offering something beautiful that is beautiful to God and draws us all together to offer what we each have to offer. You definitely have that. Sometimes people say, I don't like the music, and maybe it's because they just don't like that style or whatever. But I think oftentimes it's, I don't like the music because I feel like I'm being manipulated.
Exactly. I think that's true. And actually, I'd say I have experience. I kind of exist as a paradox, I feel like, because I remember more or less being forced to go on retreats and everything. Like when I was in high school, and inevitably there'd be like a guy with a guitar, like sing louder, crazier, like make hand motions. I just remember being like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it because this feels like manipulation, and everyone else in the room is just kind of like going, like And like I get the good intent of that, and I actually think there's a purpose there. All of us have kind of like a place that needs to be broken open, so I get the good intent of that. But like honestly, like that's not it in my opinion. Like that's not it. Like the purpose of the music itself is actually to be the tip of the spear, like to be the thing that moves us and doesn't force itself on us, but rather like opens us up to like allow us to respond. Friend of mine here in Archdiocese says like it raises a question within us, right? Like that's the idea. But here's the other thing, like in talking about music and sort of the function. I also don't want to just like kind of like go out into like nebulous oblivion with all this stuff.
Yeah.
There are some really practical things here, and it requires our response. Like it does require a decision, yes or no, right?
Yeah.
And what I'm talking about specifically is communal singing. I go to mass, and honestly, I feel uncomfortable singing because I'm like, there's this weird moment where no one's singing, and it's like, am I going to be distracting if I actually do what we're like what this moment is for us to participate in song?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that way, Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what actually happened where it became this thing where we come and we just sit there and we listen. We don't feel inspired to participate in a song by actually opening our mouth and
Yeah.
singing the words.
Yeah.
Because what can happen, and this is like, that's kind of the downside, I think, of what I see a lot of now. But what music, the opportunity it gives us a chance to, is to not be like me sitting in this chair and you sitting in that one and him sitting in that one. And all of us are sitting, I'm sitting here and I'm praying. Mm-hmm. And you're sitting there and you're praying. And there's just like this invisible wall between us. Music gives us this chance actually for a different moment of prayer. Of course, we should have these moments of intimacy with the Lord where it's me and the Lord. Communal prayer is a different thing. Like when we come together as an assembly of the faithful, when we gather, like the goal of that music, the function of that music, if you will, it gives me a chance to give the depths of my heart in worship to the Lord and to do that with you, like, and not just like next to you, like with, like all together, we can sing the same song, same words, and I can sing it from my heart, my joy and my pain and my sorrow. And you can sing it from yours.
Yeah.
We can all bring our heart to the Lord with the same song at the same time. That's like, that to me, that's like just like,
and you kind of carry
Lord.
each other.
Yeah.
Like you might be in a great space. And I might be like in the depths of depression.
Mm-hmm.
We could be in all different places, and we can kind of carry each other along. Like what the content of your song, where it's coming from is different because we're all in these different places. But hearing you sing. And knowing that you hear me sing, you're communicating with each other and bringing each other. I mean, that's what everyone always says that. Like one of the most powerful experiences about the men's conference, as another example, is when everyone prays the Our Father together, and the whole room has this this. It takes on its own voice, but that voice is only one because everyone's participated. Everyone's added to the voice in this like chord, right?
And they chose to. Like I had to choose to vocalize that prayer, right?
Yeah, and if just one person. But I do think that, and this is a major theme for kind of what we're trying to do with the men's conference and men's ministry in general, is that there is something that has happened in our culture, even within the church, that has turned us into such passive observers. Like I mean, you think about what it's like when you're, you sit on your couch and you turn on Netflix and you scroll, and then you're like, well, let's see what's on Amazon Prime. Let's see what's on, and then I turn it on and it's supposed to move me. It's supposed to, but I'm not participating with it. And even when we go to church, we go and we sit and we're supposed to listen to the homily and listen to the music and be the passive, whereas like receiving is not a passive thing. It's there's an active. Like if you're the receiver on a football team, you don't just sit there and wait for the ball to hit you. Like you got to go get it, and you got to.
It's a good analogy. Yeah, and like John Paul II says, in many different forms, love demands a response. Right? Like, and what does that mean? That means like if I was like, Chris, I love you.
Yeah.
It'd be a really awkward silence if there was no response. Just, we just sit here.
Yeah.
That's awkward. Like basically if someone shares their love with you, there's that has in a sense demanded a response. I love you. I don't love you. I don't know if I love you. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Leslie and I started dating in high school, and I definitely made the mistake of saying I love you too soon. Literally her response was, after a very awkward pause, why don't you wait till I'm 17 to say that? And I was like, But I think that's kind of the point here, is that like the Lord initiates. He goes first, he initiates, and he gives us all of his love. and then he leaves it like there's a response demanded, right?
Yeah.
And it's like almost like the worst thing we could do is just to ignore it.
Yeah.
But it's in that initiative of love that we can, as men, and it's just in our families everywhere, like we can start to answer that honestly.
Yeah.
Lord, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't know if I love you. Like even that's fair. Like he just wants, he's just asking for our response.
Yeah.
And I think to bring this back to music, if I'm singing a song that's like a song of praise to God, my response can be from where I really am. Like that's the demand of prayer. Yeah. Is not that I like, oh, well, let me just like pretend everything's fine and put on my pious self to sing this song of praise. No, I can actually sing those words of praise from a place of doubt or a place of longing or a place of suffering or wherever it is, and let that be my honest prayer. Yeah. Lord, I'm shattered. There's a tragedy in my life right now. I don't know what way is up and down, but I'm going to sing this song of praise, and that's the least I can. You know, that's all I can do. Yeah. You know, it's from the place that I am.
I mean, that's even how you put even just more mundane. Like that's also the reason why you don't have to pretend to be particularly musical. Like, oh, I don't have a very good voice, or I'm not, I'm not an artistic type. I'm an accountant and I'm a bean counter kind of, and I don't have an artistic visual bone in my body, right? That's okay. That's like, because even like all of our different gifts, I mean, it sounds trite, but it's a much richer reality than we take it. That we're all one body, and there's all these different parts, and we have and we all have our own gifts, and our gifts aren't just our skills; they aren't just our tools that allow us to accomplish something. Yeah. It's like who we are is something beautiful to be seen and to be allow ourselves to move others by the good, beautiful things that we do. Yeah. And and maybe that means that you're really good at plumbing, or you're really good at whatever.
Guess what? Like, if you're really good at plumbing and you're not so good at singing, like, just be the plumber that's singing. Like,
right? That's right. Yeah.
It's really funny. I got to interview Bishop Barron a couple years ago about some music topics and stuff, and he was like, it's really interesting to me. He's like, most of us are not good singers. In a way, he's very emphatic. Yeah. 90% of us aren't good singers, but somehow if we all sing together, it sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
And that is actually it's man, true. If you've been in a football stadium singing Sweet Caroline, Sweet Caroline, all of a sudden it's like, holy smokes, this is awesome. Yeah. There's a degree at which our level of skill or ability can actually get swept up into a moment of community. Yeah. And my weaknesses are somehow end up being a strength in light of your weaknesses and strengths. It's this mystery, actually.
It adds together to the good. When all things add together to the good. I mean, that's the little truth. And this is actually, it just occurred to me when you said that, the Sweet Caroline thing, or or a Mardi Gras parade. Everybody's, but it's actually really deep in our tradition. If you go, I don't know, you know this, but it's always kind of funny to me when you go to the Easter Vigil and there's the Exultet, which is that long, chant at the very beginning. Yeah. And it says let this place shake with the voice of the people. Yeah. And it's let this place shake with the voice of the people. And it's you never hear that. When do you hear? It's there's an expectation of the Christian experience that's embedded in our liturgical tradition, in our Christian, this is not a newfangled thing. It's what was expected, that at some point, the grace of God is being poured out on the people, and the people would respond, and it would make you hear it. Yeah. That's what the Alleluia is supposed to be, or the Holy, Holy, Holy is supposed to be. All of those things, all of those parts where we participate, it should be this full-throated,
Yeah.
from our heart, offering a worthy sacrifice of praise
Yep.
to
Yep.
God. Our offering to God isn't just the $2 or the $20 we put in the collection basket. It's like we're there to give something
ourselves.
back
Yeah.
and make ourselves available to God and to respond receptively to what He's giving.
Yeah.
And when we become real passive, then it's like, I don't like Mass. I don't know, I don't get anything out of it. All of these kinds of responses that we've all felt,
Yeah, I guess like this is just amusing for me is like I feel like at some point there's something here, man, like that like we have eaten the cheese that singing and probably ultimately in some ways like faith is not masculine.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, just to say it, like,
Yeah.
and I think that's probably to work it the other way. Like, I think on some level we've probably eaten the cheese that like the faith is somehow not masculine.
Yeah.
And sort of an exterior proof of that, in my opinion, is that men don't sing.
Yeah.
I'm just being honest with you. Like,
Yeah.
we are like, we're generally gonna first not before we do,
Yeah.
And I remember I went to St. Paul's, and Brother Ray would force us into like singing practice before graduation, before like big ceremonies. We'd get together with Brother Ray, and he'd be the one he was directing us and everything else. Well, I mean, at the time, like all of us were it's all boys school. You can imagine all the goofing off and all of the like, this is stupid stuff. He would force us to sing loudly, and we would have to even stay late sometimes after the the end of the day if we hadn't sung with enough gusto, in his opinion.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, even as like just locker room life me, there was like something that I was like, underneath the facade of like, this is stupid and everything else.
Yeah.
Man, this is awesome when we all sing together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's like something there that the Lord wants us to reclaim, honestly, as men. Is like, we can sing together. And it's like, that indicates all of the other things in a way that we can do together. It united in authentic community with eyes fixed on Jesus, And I would hope that that's one of the outcomes of this opportunity to gather in March with the men of the Archdiocese.
I mean, I could not agree more with that. I mean, that is, it's so true. And it gives, I mean, there's so many things to say about that, but like one is it gives you this like really profound sense of belonging. It gives you a profound sense that I'm okay, so I'm putting forth an effort. Like I'm working here, right? But I'm working in concert with a lot of other really good guys that are also working. I mean, we all want that at work.
Yeah.
When we're at work, we're sitting at whatever it is that we do, sometimes it's like so discouraging when you feel like, you're putting forth an effort and no one else is paying any attention. Nobody else is caring. And it kind of, you feel encouraged to work less or to not try or to not, put all your heart, like, why am I working so hard if everyone else around me is like blunt, just off in space. And our faith, sometimes we feel like that. Like, why am I still, putting in an effort to be faithful when all the people around me just don't seem to care, all of that.
Right.
But, if you flip that around, what does it look like when all the people around you do care?
Exactly.
When they're all after, they're all after it, and you're on that same team and it's like you need to be after it because not only for you to be the fullest version of yourself, but also because it affects the other people. Yeah. I don't want to draw back the guys who are trying to go forward.
I'm thinking of the Saints and the Eagles right now, by the way.
Yeah.
This past season, like you have these examples of like this, this. I mean, we all love our Saints, of course. I do too, just like anyone. My grandma even broke her foot one time. She was so mad, stomped so hard, and like So I'm with you. I'm a Saints fan, but like, I mean, you could see it this year. You could see this year. This is not a group of. This is not a team that's come together around the same focus and that's working in the same way for the same goal with that kind of energy. And then you watch the Super Bowl and it's just like, beautiful.
Well,
like it's beautiful to watch the Eagles just I mean, for a number of reasons, but anyway, like it was beautiful. Like it wasn't just like rah rah. It was like, wow, this is a thing of beauty to see how this team is working together and just boom, destroying the Chiefs.
That's right. That's right. I mean, and and we all want to be. I mean, we love to watch it. We love to identify with it. We love to cheer it on. We love to whatever.
We love it because we want to be a part of it.
Because we want to be part of it. And even when even if you're a Chiefs fan, and you were like sure.
But anyway, just kidding.
Or a Saints fan, right? And you like, you just because you try really hard doesn't mean everything goes the way you want. And sometimes, like you said, tragedy happens and your life gets turned upside down and like, why was I working so hard? And everything becomes a mess. But, if even if you fail, you're failing, you have your brothers with you and you can go into mourning together and you can go into regroup together and you can go, okay, how can we do this better? Like, let's rethink this. Like, okay, that didn't work. Let's do something better. Yeah. And that all comes from everyone adding their best. And so, like, there's a real profound insight that the church asks us, every Sunday or even, in the liturgy of the hours, multiple times to, like, I remember going to a monastery and, the monks gather together, like, multiple times a day. And they chant their office and they're singing and they're conscientious about it and they're thinking about it. And there's a sort of like, it informs all the other work when they go off and they're making beer or whatever it is that they're doing, it brings us together. So it's like this higher level bringing us all together that helps us in the more mundane, like, okay, I'm not,
I think about even the theme of the conference. I trust in you. Obviously, this is Jesus. I trust in you, right? Well, it's Jesus who spoke John 15, like, remain in me as I remain in you. You are the vine, I am the branches. I'm sorry, that's completely backwards. I am the vine, you are the branches.
Yeah.
And like, I think part of that is recognizing, like, yes, Jesus is the vine. I'm not the only branch on this vine, and like, there's a grafting that happens. I'm alongside other branches. I think that's what you're talking about.
Each one
needs
to be bearing fruit,
right? And I think, like, in this, maybe there's a need for remembering who we are and how the Lord's made us, especially in our masculinity and our masculine goodness. And that reminding or that teaching of that revealing of who we are, yes, certainly happens in remaining in Jesus, but there's some mystery to the fact that, like, even the branches on the vine get all tangled up with each other, and like, I need the other branches on the vine, so that revelation of who I am, yes, certainly happens when I come to Jesus and when I remain in him. But there's this other aspect where it happens when I come to Jesus and remain in him with my brothers who are also doing the same. That revelation continues to happen. And so, like, I think that's why gatherings like these matter, and ultimately that's why, like, me being next to someone who's also singing matters. Is because we need the Lord to reveal who we are to ourselves,
It's like that. It's like the rose window in a church. You have Christ in the middle. And then you have all of these, and there's a way in which, like, if you imagine yourself like the spokes of a wheel, if you're getting closer to Jesus, you're also getting closer to all the other spokes. Even though there are people who are like on the opposite. They're like opposite you, but as you get closer, you have to get closer to others, And then what happens, like with the men's conference, we used to, I've said this a couple times before, but we used to, like, on the poster, I don't know if people can see the poster, but on the poster, we used to put, like, the pictures of the speakers on it, And a couple of years ago, we said, let's not do that anymore. Because, not because we're not committed to trying to get the best speakers we can. But that's not why you're going. You're not going to listen to some speaker. You're not going to hear something. Like, the reason to go, the star of the show, are all the guys that are in the room. Like, you walk in that room and you see hundreds of other guys. And, and you see guys that you see guys that you don't know, you see guys from other places in the diocese, other things that are happening, and then it's all right, and then we're like gathered together and we're doing this thing together, and you have this, it's encouraging to hear that voice of all of the guys praying,
Yeah.
but it's also really encouraging to realize that I'm an encouragement to the other.
Right.
Even if I'm not totally, maybe I'm doubtful, maybe I'm struggling, maybe or whatever, but even in my like kind of half-baked, not totally with it, whatever place, I'm still an encouragement to others. Like me being here means something to the other guys in the room, just like them being there means something to me. And you get an experience like, boy, I'm part of something bigger.
Yeah.
And then that's an encouragement for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Hopefully people remember. Hopefully the music will be, and I think it will be, be memorable. You'll be at work and kind of humming the tune.
Yeah, that would definitely be the hope. One of the things that we'll do is like we'll have some chances to sing like hymnody together. So for example, I love the hymn. Oh shoot, I'm forgetting "Oh God Beyond All Praising." And that was one of the ones we used to sing at St. Paul's actually. Seniors. But man, it's just that hymn. Like it's a triumphant hymn of praise to the Lord, and like the moments that I've been in, like able to pray that with my brothers it's just beautiful and it's powerful. So like at the men's conference, we'll have a chance for singing some hymnody as part of the day, as part of our prayer together. And my hope is that like we break all the windows in St. Dominic's. Don't tell them before this, before the conference, but like, come Holy Spirit, like let's sing this out,
Yeah.
But that's actually something too, is even like the men's conference, as you journey through the day, and this is true not just of the music, but but of the whole conference, you'll be journeying through different moments of prayer, right? We'll have a time to sing hymnody in the morning. We'll have a time to encounter the Lord in Eucharistic adoration.
Yeah.
We'll have a time for the Mass. And what I'll say is like the music will be different for each of those moments, as we talked about a little while ago.
Well, and there's also time for silence, and there's time for thinking. There'll be people who will be giving things, presenters who'll be talking, or we'll be giving things to ponder and think about, like, it's going to touch all of the different parts, and, and I really do look forward, I know because we've talked about it, but, I really look forward to seeing again that, to go back to what we said about what happened in the Eucharistic Congress, like, just see how this all can, like, it can, the appropriate expression at appropriate time and have it, like, make sense. That's what I'm really hoping is people like that. It makes sense that we're singing this now. Even if it's not my favorite song or my favorite style, if I'm chanting, and I never thought of myself as someone who likes chant or something.
Yeah.
But, if that, however that happens, it'll be like, if that's the choice, it'll be like, well, it makes sense that that's what we're doing now.
Yeah.
And so then I'm willing, because one of the things, the challenges of the church in proclaiming the gospel and evangelizing, especially adults, and especially adult men, is that you have to do it in a way that encourage their free participation. You can't compel, someone to listen to you or to be part. And that's what the church needs. Nor should you. And you shouldn't. That's not how it's supposed to be. It should be an invitation to participate. And, that's sort of the big picture problem we're trying to solve is how do we offer an invitation to participate?
Exactly. Yeah. I agree very much with that. One thing is, I'll just say personally, excellence matters to me, and so like, I don't really want to go to something that's not excellent. I don't know how to say this in a polite way. Like you're going to probably say no to an invitation to something that's not like great, Yeah. And so I would say like there's a responsibility, especially in the mission of the church to evangelize, to do things with excellence. And that also, of course, carries over into the church's mission of worshiping God. Like we should have this word in mind, and like as we go and as we evangelize and as we worship, and even as we serve the poor, like we should be like, how can we do this with all the excellence that's due God?
Yeah.
I don't think Jesus and his apostles did things half-heartedly, like
Right.
when they were walking the earth 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
I think they went full speed and lived a life of excellence,
Yeah.
you know? And so like, that's something that I would hope for as well here. And that's something I hope that like, that as a church, we can like maybe reclaim a little bit. I'll be honest with you. I think maybe we've lost a little bit of, we've rested on the laurels of, we have the full truth and the true presence of Jesus and these kind of things. And then suddenly it's like, so we can just do things sort of half-heartedly, sort of cheesy, sort of whatever. No, actually, all those things mean we need to do them with all of the excellence due, the truth, the true presence of Jesus, and all those things.
Yeah.
So I hope that like the men's conference would, in a sense, be like a little micro
Cosm
or experience
and
of
we're
that.
trying.
Excellence.
You know, like I think that's exactly.
Come
that's
on,
what we're-
Chris, bring the excellence.
I
to
mean,
the
you know, it's legitimately hard. I'm not making any, you know, preemptive excuses or something, but you know, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah,
and that legitimately
yeah.
is what we're trying to do. You know,
Well-
and you know, but it is also the case that we do have this malaise in it. You know, it's hard to inspire guys to come because they've had already so many experiences of things that have not been entirely excellent.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't want to go to that thing.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and like
That's
overcoming
me.
that.
I'll be honest with you. That's me
Yeah,
all the
I
times.
mean, honestly, sometimes I get it. What you know, we're trying to get guys to come to the men's conference, and someone's like, I'm not sure I want to do that, and I'm like, boy, I can't blame that. Like, you know, I would probably be in a similar place, and I'd have to have some reason.
I
you know,
I hear you, and that
You
is me
know,
often.
and so like the responsibility to be as excellent as we can be, you know, but even getting people to, I mean, this is why I'm super grateful for your enthusiasm and your excellent in bringing it, because it's a challenge to invite people to come and help us be excellent.
That's actually,
You know.
that's what I was going to say. Is excellence is a two-way street. Like there's an excellence in an invitation and like an offering kind of thing. There's also an excellence in response and in participation. That's kind of what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah,
it's
even,
like
even at the level of planning the men's conference, it's one thing for us to do the best we can, but we can't be excellent if we're not inviting other people to come participate with us. And sometimes that's hard to do.
Yeah.
Like, please help us, you know.
Yeah.
Like we did a podcast just not too long ago with Father Brown at Jesuit. Jesuit has like really generously supported the conference, and that was kind of unexpected, but it was like but we needed that help, you know, and for that help to come, it's like, wow, this opens up so many opportunities for us, you know, the Knights of Columbus and all the different sponsors. But sometimes it's like we're looking for sponsors, and it's like we need help to be excellent. And if we don't have the help, we just have to do the best we can with what we got. And a lot of times I think people in ministry are doing the best they can with what they got.
oh yeah.
But
Agreed.
like maybe we need to lean a little more into like not being the sole expert and the only excellent person in the room.
Yeah.
There are other excellent people in the room who do other excellent things, and we can sing together. You know, so that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And
I love it.
I'm so excited about it. I think guys are gonna really, really be surprised at how beautiful it'll be. I hope.
Who are some of the presenters? I know that there's a reason for not putting them on the poster and all that kind of stuff. But,
We're doing these podcasts with each of the
out of
presenters.
curiosity.
So you guys, Vigil Project will be doing the music, and you're gonna have a little special spot in there. We're gonna use one of the keynote addresses to kind of speak a little more about about some of these ideas, and then also offer guys the opportunity to experience that. And then we're going to have Damon Owens, who's a national speaker.
Awesome.
You know Damon?
Yeah, I didn't know Damon was coming.
He used to be
He's a friend of
the
mine.
president of the Theology Body Institute. Now he works with Communio, who does. And really part of what he's trying to do is help parishes be excellent. That's kind of what Communio is doing. And he's been speaking about marriage and family and everything.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of those lines. And then the real local guy is Greg Raymond.
Okay.
You know, who's been kind of making the tour and making a splash here in New Orleans all around and firing guys up. And he's just he's just a ball of energy, that guy. So those will be
awesome.
that's the speaker. Archbishop Amen will be there for Mass. we're working on getting priests to come. I think we're going to have like dozens of priests to hear confessions.
Awesome.
And food's going to be good. All of that stuff. So we're working at it. But yeah, we're excited about putting the whole piece together.
Yeah.
So
That's great.
thanks for being a part of it.
Yeah, we're pumped.
More grateful than I can.
Yeah.
Yeah. So great. Well, thanks. So how can people find you? Find the Vigil Project?
Yeah.
If they want to hear some of your music. What's the best way to find you?
Thevigilproject.com is the website, and all of our stuff is there. And Vigil is we do have this creative side, this music ministry side, where we do go out and do it directly. We also do have this resource side where we support other musicians. So that's the other thing I'd say is we do a lot of work nationally, internationally. It's kind of funny, like in our own archdiocese, sometimes it's like hard to actually get the word out. So yeah, if there's anyone who's like blessed by that, edified by that, and everything else, all of it's there. We would love to share it, especially with the people here in both praying and music ministry and everything else. So
so thevigilproject.com. Greg Boudreaux, thank you.
Yeah. Great to be here, Chris. Looking forward to the conference.
All right, thanks.